All right, the Celtics, well, they took game one last night against Charlotte in fine fashion, but today they are concerned about the health of one Mr. Reggie Lewis, their captain. He collapsed, as you well know by now, during the first quarter, did not play in the second quarter, did not play much at all in the second half. Today he underwent a battery of tests at New England Baptist Hospital, and the results inconclusive. Team Dr. Arnold Scheller said after the game that he suspected Lewis was suffering from hyperventilation or low glucose. He returned late last night to the hospital for more tests. The team will decide tomorrow whether or not Lewis is going to play in the afternoon game against the Hornets. He looked great in the opening minutes, pouring in a quick 10 points. No signs anything was wrong. He obviously came to play. With 6.5 minutes left in the first period, he stumbled coming back up court right there. He stumbled and sat there dazed until he was helped off the floor. He did not play again until the second half, where again it looked like nothing was wrong, but he was pulled about after 6 minutes. He did not return. This morning in practice, the Celts were concerned as they awaited Lewis's test results.
Questionable. It's a scary thing to the player and to everyone who's involved. The bottom line is that there are two benchmarks that have to be passed before Reggie plays. The first is a medical benchmark that the doctors will provide to him, and the second is his own.
This whole situation overshadowed the actual playing of game number one. A lot of people were worried about this Charlotte team, and they still should be. A few expected a blowout in this game, but it was no contest last night. After the opening tap, the Celts handed it to the Hornets with an 11-point win. Familiar face, Larry Bird, looking dapper in that suit, but everyone wishing he was still wearing a green jersey. The Hornets looked good in the first half. Alonzo Mourning, what a player during his part, pouring in 30 points for his team. But the Celts got the spark they needed when D. Brown came up with a pair of blocked shots, which also ignited the Garden crowd. Monster block. Like the old saying goes, good offense starts with good defense. D. Brown just flying last night.
Finds Curry. D. Brown with the block.
It did get us going to keep this up. We started playing a little better defense, started rebounding, and we started running. So that's what we needed, the defense.
All right, the game was tied at the half as Sherman Douglas took matters into his own hands in the third quarter, coming up with big rebounds that led to big baskets. Douglas recorded his first triple-double ever and was easily the Celtics' key guy.
When the time has come, I think this playoff time, you're going to have to show some heart, mix it up, and take some hard fouls or get the rebound. This is what it all boils down to. This is where you play those 82 games to get to this point right now.
All right, the Celts took off from there, leading by as many as 20 points, and although the Hornets would cut it to 11, the game really never was in jeopardy. Mr. Playoff Intensity Award goes to the X-Man, who had 21 points and was not afraid to stir things up with Larry Johnson in the late going. After all, what's a playoff series without a little bad blood?
I'm not going to be intimidated by him, and I hope that he don't be intimidated by me. You know, I just want to go out and play good, hard, aggressive basketball, because you throw a punch, hey, they're going to find the hell out of you. That's their new policy.
You know, we have quality players. We don't have, absolute superstars, but if everyone goes out there and works and does their job, good things will happen.
Well, now, Boston did win Game 1 on Thursday night by 11. They played the entire second half without their leading scorer, Reggie Lewis, though. He collapsed on the court in the first quarter. He did return, but only played a few more minutes. For a report, let's go to Marv Albert and Mike Fratello.
All right, Bob, and yes, the major story here in Boston is one of great concern involving the Celtics captain and leading scorer, Reggie Lewis, who was early in Game 1 Thursday night. Reggie suddenly stumbled, fell to the floor. He fainted in the midst of the action. Now, for more on Reggie Lewis's status, let's go to Ahmad Rashad.
All right, thanks, Marv. I'm joined now by Senior Executive Vice President Dave Gavitt. Dave, on Thursday, Reggie Lewis went down. He spent the night in the hospital. Can you give us any update on that situation?
Well, good news so far. Bad news in that he's not going to be available to play today. We've ruled him out today, but good news in that he's undergone an extensive battery of tests to try to determine what happened on Thursday night. And to this point, they've all proved negative. So they've covered everything from cardiology to electronic responses to brain to blood. And as you keep ruling the bad things out, I think hopefully the long-range prognosis looks good.
There was a report that he did suffer from dizzy spells, I guess, earlier in March. Is there any correlation between those two?
At this juncture, the doctors think the two events were disconnected, that the earlier dizziness was just a brief spat that he had and was probably caused by drinking some fluids that weren't quite right.
How do you make the decision as to when he'll be back?
Well, I think it's a twofold decision. Number one, he has to get medical clearance to play. They've got to be sure that they're satisfied that they were able to come to grips with what caused this, and that there's not a medical problem there. That's number one. And number two is Reggie's got to be comfortable and confident himself before he goes back out in the court. And, in our case, I mean, we know what a great leader Reggie is and what a great player. He's certainly not a malingerer in any way. So whenever Reggie's right, that's fine with us.
All right. Thanks a lot, Dave.
You're welcome.
Welcome, everybody. Newby's at the Derby. Probably rode the winner today. Scott Wiley's the music man in the South Shore and another musical, and that's why you're stuck with me. But a tough loss for the Celtics at the Garden today, playing without Captain Reggie Lewis, who is still in the hospital undergoing tests at game time. The Celtics dropping a one-point heartbreaker in double OT to the Charlotte Hornets. As far as Lewis goes, there is still no explanation for his collapse during Game 1 Thursday and no word on when he might play again.
The good news is that nothing has been discovered. I mean, everything, all the bad stuff has been eliminated. Everything's been negative to this point. And once they complete the test today, then I think, the physicians at some point in the next 24 hours will really have to consult with each other probably and see where they are, what the baseline is.
Well, let's take a look and see what happened without the Reggie Lewis-less Celtics today. Game started out like Game 1, close first half game. All a fade away. Boston finishing the half with an 8-2 run to lead 47-42. Larry Johnson, big gun for the Hornets. 23 drives the bucket there. Charlotte led 69-65. But the fourth quarter belonged to McHale. 11 straight points, and they're back in it.
McHale working at the same position. He's killing Gaddison now. McHale comes outside. McHale goes inside. Counts and the foul. Crowd responds as McHale begins to make the move. Kevin McHale has given Boston a one-point lead.
He was immense. Larry loves it. Kevin in control, hitting 13 of his season-high 30 points in the fourth. A huge game from him, maybe his final ever at the Boston Garden. Let's hope not. McDaniel hits his only field goal of the game late in regulation. That baseline J ties it at 91. Celtics had a chance to win in regulation. D. Brown can't hit it. Parrish's shot off the mark on to overtime, number one. And Larry Johnson again blows by McHale for the baseline reverse that puts Charlotte up 2. But McHale was not finished yet.
McHale, it pays off. Gamble for 3. Parrish with the rebound off the face. McHale fires. Yes!
The Hornets had one last chance, but Larry Johnson's shot doesn't go, and it's on to overtime number 2. This was a great game. One field goal in the second overtime only, and it belonged to Larry Johnson. There were actually only 3 points scored in the entire second overtime. 2 for Charlotte, 1 for Boston. McHale made one of the 2 from the foul line to cut the lead to 1, and then D. Brown had a chance to win as time ran out, but the shot didn't fall. D hit just 1 of his last 10. The South lose a heartbreaker in double OT as the Hornets tie the series at 1 game apiece.
Sometimes they drop and sometimes they don't. And what happened was, we had open jumpers. We had good spacing when we get the ball to Kevin. Looks we had in the game were looks that 50% chance to go in and chance to not go in.
We had chances to win, but if you don't win, what good the chances do? Like I said, people who make excuses now usually make arrangements to go home early.
Man, Parrish and McHale, man. Oh, God, I couldn't believe some of the shots they were hitting.
Kendall, does this answer the critics?
Hello. Well, let's shut that down in a hurry. Whoop, that tape just wrapped itself around each other. Hope they're happy. Charlotte beat Boston by 1 in a double overtime.
Quarter. Chris?
Eastern Conference. It was a test for the heart and grit and the stamina of the aging Celtics and the coming-of-age Hornets. A Game 2 thriller with Charlotte trying to show they've arrived and Boston looking to survive shorthanded as Reggie Lewis sat out. Tests offering no clues why he collapsed on the court in Game 1 or whether he'll return for Game 3. They must make do in the meantime. Pick it up in the fourth quarter. Hornets by 2. Larry Johnson just beats the shot clock, puts the Hornets up by 4. Don't laugh yet, Larry. Kevin McHale, age 35, showing some of his moves, goes to the hoop, beats Alonzo Mourning, gets it down with the foul. Celtics led by 1. Then McHale schooling Mourning again, head fake in the lane. Celtics up by 1, and Larry Bird cheering on his old team. Back and forth action in the fourth quarter. Johnson takes McHale to the hole, ties it at 87. Then Kevin Gamble over Mourning, 2-point Boston lead. Kendall Gill on Gamble with time running out in the shot clock. 89 apiece. X-Man over Johnson. His only hoop of the game, ties it at 91. 4.3 seconds left. Gamble will try the alley-oop to D. Brown. Bounces off the rim. Parrish corrals it, throws up the shot, can't get it to go down. We go to overtime. Hornets at a 2-point lead. Gamble the miss. Parrish corrals the rebound. Head fake. Short on the shot. McHale fights for it. Throws it up in the baseline. Larry Bird says we're going to double overtime. Both teams just exhausted, and it shows. That field goal by Larry Johnson, the only in double overtime. Hornets up by 1, waning seconds. The inbound. Rick Fox and D. Brown for the win. Just short. No foul call. Alonzo Mourning had fouled out earlier. The series is even at 1 apiece. The first ever playoff win for the Hornets. McHale had 30, Parrish 19, Johnson 23, Mourning 18. Games 3 and 4 in Charlotte Monday and Wednesday.